Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. So I've been in touch with a couple other YouTube channels and creators, and mostly to compare notes and get some advice and offer some feedback and things like that. And one of them is a channel called Real Tough Candy, right here. This is her channel, and she's a lot like me. She's a freelance web developer, contract engineer, and she works for herself. I don't know how many years she's been programming, but she's pretty good. So she must be doing it for a while. And she's creating a lot of content about how to break into the freelance industry. And if you've been following my channel, you probably know that I do some content on that as well. So she was gracious enough to send me a copy of her book that she just released called The Freelance Newbie, right here. So here's a link to the book. And I read through it, and it's good. It's good. There were a lot of good actionable tips, things that you can actually act upon and do, rather than just sort of, vague overtures like believe in yourself and stuff like that. None of that nonsense. Like, it's like do this, then do this, then do that. And so it's good. If you want to be a freelance contract engineer, I highly recommend you pick up the book and just read through it. It's a quick read. It only took me about 2 sittings. It's easy to get through. But I do want to point out one passage in particular that really hits home with me, and especially as a beginner when I was first starting out. So let me open it up, and I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'll just pick apart some of the key points. So this is her story of her first contract, or her first almost contract. It was with a dentist, and they had set up a meeting. They had done the meeting. They had agreed to terms and whatnot. They had a sort of an agreement in place, in principle. And then the next day, the dentist said, "Can you come? I'd like to meet with you again. Can you come down to the office tomorrow?" And here Candy, as her name is Candy, she says, "I felt a mild knot again in my stomach. Their office was in another city, over an hour away, and I wasn't getting paid for this meeting. Once again, the thrill of me being pursued by a freelance client overpowered any physical manifestation of doubt I may have had. I didn't even ask them why they wanted to meet. I happily obliged." Because they were about to close the deal. Sorry. It was a Sunday. Their office was closed, etc., etc. They seemed to receptive to my ideas after I explained the importance of we'll get back to you soon. Very important line here. We'll get back to you soon, as if the deal wasn't actually done. So sort of misleading there. 3 days later, another call from the dentist. I've got one of Tina's coworkers who claims she can get this thing built for free. Okay. And then the deal fell apart. So it didn't happen. This is a very, very important lesson to learn for a lot of freelancers, especially when you're first starting out, is you're going to learn that there are a lot of time wasters out there, and they will happily waste your time. This sort of thing has happened to me a handful of times, this exact sort of scenario where people engage you in initial consultations, meetings, then they ask for follow-ups, and then another follow-up, none of which is paid, all of which is under sort of the auspices of this is or really under the pretense of a negotiation, which will be closed soon after the next meeting. But no, after the next meeting. Wait, no, after the next meeting. And really what they're doing is they're trying to squeeze out information and sort of get valuable information out of you for free as much as possible. And they're also trying to get you to bid against yourself, meaning that, let's say you can you put together some sort of a rough ballpark estimate, and then what time wasters will do, they'll say something like, "That's a good price, let me get back to you on that, but we like what we hear, we'll get back to you." And then what they're really doing is they're shopping it around to other developers, other people, overseas shops, trying to get an even lower rate. And then they're trying to leverage your bid against other people to get an even better quote. And then they'll come back to you saying that they can do better somewhere else, whether or not that's true. They're just using that to try to get you to lower your bid, and then that just goes on. They'll do that through a couple cycles. One scenario kind of like this that I experienced about 5 years ago. So earlier on in my career, I'm on year 7, so this is, within the first 2 years of my career, is I was contracting in Lower Manhattan, and during my lunch break, I was going to this other building that ran like a huge what they said was a huge architecture firm, and they wanted to build an iPad app. So I went there during my lunch break, and they showed me all these mock-ups. They asked me how long would it take to build this, what frameworks and libraries would you use to build that, is this possible, is this a reasonable feature under a certain amount of time, asking me all these questions, again under the pretense of negotiation. And I was kind of giving them the information that they wanted to hear. I was still kind of new to the game. Like I was still sort of operating in like a, trying to please the customer modality. And then this went on for several meetings, maybe 3 or 4, I don't remember the exact number. Meaning like during my break, where I was not billing client A, so I was putting money aside, like off on the table to go to another building, across town, and sit down for 45 minutes to an hour and talk to these 2 guys in particular. It was only 2, and they would ask me all these questions, show me all these new mock-ups and revisions based on our previous meeting, etc. And after like the 4th meeting, they were like, okay, now we got to take this to our higher ups. And the whole time I was thinking they were the key decision makers. I thought they were the ones who were going to make the actual decision as to whether or not to move forward with me or not. And it turns out that wasn't the case at all. And all they were doing is getting information as to timelines and budget estimates, and then they were going to bring that to their board of whatever to try to see if they can get greenlit for the project. The project itself wasn't even greenlit. And so there was no project, and I just wasted 4 or 5 hours of time that I wasn't billing anyone else. And I literally wasn't billing someone that I could have been billing because I was in my other client's office, and then I would clock out for an hour, go across town, take this meeting, come back, and I did that for about a week. And my first client didn't know I was doing that. He just thought I was at the lunch. And so this is a very standard time-wasting experience. Time wasters everywhere. And this book goes into one of those situations, and it's one of those things that you don't realize is happening to you until after it happens, unless you're experienced like I am. Now I screen out time wasters right away. Like I haven't had a time waster in a few years because I screen them out like immediately. They identify themselves, which is great, and I'm going to get into some of the ways they do that next. But the important thing to understand is that one of the first things you have to do very early on is gauge whether or not the person you're talking to is actually in the market, or if that person or company is a time waster. Are they kicking tires? And if so, do not engage. Don't engage. Those people are not in the market. So everyone likes to go window shopping. Every now and then I like to just spin up Amazon and just look at, stuff, TVs or new computers. And I'm not going to buy any, like cameras. I'm not going to buy any of this stuff. I'm just looking, just because I'm bored. I'm just doing stuff. The difference being I'm not wasting anyone's time. I'm just on the internet, just poking around. Other people will do this at the expense of people's time. It's weird. I don't totally understand it. I'm very sensitive about wasting people's time because I put such a high value on my time. I think that might be part of it, actually. One thing I've noticed is that time wasters generally don't value their own time because, for the most part, their own time carries little value. These are people of rather little consequence. Like they're not the ones managing $1 million budgets. They're not the ones who, if they weren't doing one thing, they'd be earning $10,000 somewhere else. That's not these people. These people, their own time has inconsequential value. So as a result, they can't relate to somebody whose time has literal concrete value. And so they just don't even think of it. They don't even consider that dynamic. And I think that might be part of why these things happen. But let me get into some of the sort of the telltale indicators of time wasters. Number one is when they continually ask for follow-up meetings or even phone calls, just to talk. Like, hey, I got some more stuff I want to ask you. Can we schedule another meeting, next week? One or maybe two of those meetings is fine. It's expected. Basically, just sort of intro or reconnaissance meetings. Like, do I like this person? Can he do the job? Is this the right solution to our problem? But after meeting two, if you're still asking questions under that pretense, you're a time waster. And if more importantly, if you're the engineer, if you're the freelance contractor, you have to immediately realize you are dealing with a time waster and then disengage. Don't even try to alert them to that fact. Like, just find a polite way to disengage. Because one of the mistakes is trying to sort of change the time waster's perspective, saying like, hey, I bill by the hour, my rate is this, I have to start invoicing you. No, don't do any of that. And actually, Candy gets into some of that here too, I think. Where is she saying? I think you're... Okay, so right here, it says, it says here, Jim, we can meet, but at this point, I'm going to have to start charging you. Don't do that, because it's just a waste of time. They will never come around to that way of thinking. Jim wasn't having it. Charging for a meeting, I think you're being unreasonable. I think this could be a big business opportunity for you. A classic time waster talk. This is classic time waster language that this person is doing. So trying to change that person's perspective will not work. And you're just continually wasting your time. Now, furthermore, let's say on the offhand chance it does work. Somehow you were able to change this person's mind and make that person respect your hourly value and the fact that you have to charge for meetings and consultations moving forward. Let's say you were somehow able to pull that off. Even still, every minute moving forward, that person is going to have second thoughts and build resentment if you're not delivering exactly what they want every second of build time. Do you really want to deal with a client like that? Have you ever actually dealt with a client like that? Because I have. I have told more than a few clients, you know what, just keep your money. Keep the money you currently owe me that I already built, I already worked. Just keep it. Keep it. You can just keep the $2,000 you owe me. You can keep the $1,600 you owe me. Whatever it is, keep it. I am paying to not deal with you anymore. That's an even worse outcome than just not ever engaging with these individuals. Because people like that will drive you to that point. These are time wasters. So you want to just get these people out of your life is the goal. The goal now is to make sure these people don't even enter your orbit. Because time wasters, or sometimes they're called time vampires. I've seen in other like sales channels are called like time sucks or time vampires. They never improve. They don't change. They don't evolve into something better. This is just the path they've chosen in life. So you don't try and change their perspective. Your goal is to make sure they never enter your orbit. And if one of them sneaks through, every now and then I'll get a time waster kind of sneak through. I had a phone call with one about a week ago. I'll explain that towards the end of the video. The skill now becomes to tactfully and sort of gracefully get your way out of that situation. Something like, I don't know if this project is for me. My docket is kind of full right now. However, I think I can refer you to someone if you're interested. I can find someone who might be a better fit, and then don't refer anyone, or just go point that person right to like Upwork or Fiverr, because really you really don't want to refer the time waster to anyone in your network anyway, because then the person in your network will become a little bit annoyed. Like, It's really difficult for me when one of my friends or one of my personal contacts in my professional network, in good faith, is actually trying to help out and refers to me a time waster. And I've just told my friends to stop referring, period, because it becomes a strain on the relationship with my friend. And nobody wants that. I don't want that. I just don't want to deal with it, right? It's just better. With my friends, by and large now, they don't even understand what I do. They literally don't comprehend my profession, and that's the way I want it. But sometimes it's a professional contact, like somebody I met along the way, and they think they're doing me a favor by delivering me, somebody who wants to build a website for, $300. And now I've got two awkward conversations, right? And so you just want to find ways to keep these things, prevent them from happening altogether. But this is classic time waster talk right here. This could be a big business opportunity for you. I've never been in a situation where a person charges for a meeting complete. Another time waster technique, this is classic time waster technique, is they tell you about your industry. I still get told how my industry works. People still talk to me as if they're teaching me about my industry. People who are not in technology. Okay, I want to be clear about this. I'm not talking about CTOs who've been in the game for 10, 15, 20 years. I'm talking about the Joe Schmo who raised $5,000 for his stupid dog dating app startup that he convinced his mother-in-law to give him money for. And now this guy is telling me about how my industry works. This happens. These are time wasters. It's classic time waster technique. So if you see that happening to you, disengage. Try to find a polite, tactful way to disengage. You don't want to create animosity just for animosity's sake, but you do want to make the message clear. I'm not the right person for this. And maybe, if you're really political about or tactful about it, you can just be like, hey, you know what, like, you have bigger fish to fry than me. Like you're out of my pay scale. Like you're too good for me. Really stroke that guy's ego, because it'll make everyone feel better at the end of the day. I kind of do a lot more of that now, because it just makes my life easier when people are just like sort of satiated, and I can just like move on with my life. So let's see what else. Okay, so really what you're doing is you're screening your potential clients. So I screen my clients really, really early. I had another company reach out to me about 3 or 4 weeks ago towards New Year's about doing DevOps work on the AWS environment. So it's cloud computing, cloud architecture. And that's expensive stuff. Literally within the first email, I told him, these are my hourly rates, and I typically, a typical assignment is of this certain volume. I just want to make sure you can handle this. And then just radio silence, nothing. And that's it. And I was expecting more of an email along the lines of, you're out of our budget, thanks anyway. But the real value there is no one's time was wasted. No one's time was wasted, and that's fine. That's good for me. So you want to screen your clients early. You want to find a tactful way of doing that, but you want to have that conversation early so that there are no rude awakenings later on down the road. I'm just making sure I cover all my points in my notes. Let's see here. I took a screenshot from something that popped up in my Facebook feed today. So let me just find that real quick. Let's see here. I don't know if you can see this. Okay. So, hello everyone. My friends and I are looking to build an MVP similar to Fiverr and Upwork in terms of concept and structure. Do any of you have good front-end, back-end developers to recommend? Classic time waster talk. This guy is a straight-up time waster, and if you saw this on your Facebook feed, avoid this person. He is doing what's called tire kicking. He's not really in the market. Or if he thinks he is, he's going to find out quickly that he's not when he finds out the prices for something like to rebuild Fiverr and Upwork. So back in 2013, I would have engaged with a person like this, and I would have said I can probably get that done for around 25K, which is still way lowball. Today it's more like 50 to 60K. And then he would have been like, that's outrageous. I think you don't really understand how much of an opportunity this is. This can become the next major freelancing platform. We can become $1 billion company in 3 to 6 months. And if you don't really want to be a part of that, then that's your loss. And you shouldn't be charging 20K. You should be charging 2,000 at the most. And then maybe taking on whatever equity we offer, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Time waster talk. How do I know that? Because the fact that he's even looking for price quotes on this, I'm not really sure the best way to articulate, but it clearly shows a beginner level of naivete. Even 50 to 60K, like it's... realistically, it's going to be in the hundreds. But he's not expecting that. He's going to think he can get it for like $1,000. And the fact that he's posting it even on Facebook or whatever, what is non-time waster talk? So non-time waster talk is stuff that's qualified upfront and early. So if I were in this guy's position, okay, first of all, I would dial down the requirements because rebuilding Upwork and Fiverr, it's just not a practical thing to do on Facebook, at least. I would say something like, I'm looking to build just a simple job board, something simple, just a regional job board, and that's it. 3-page website, sign up, using Stripe for payments, hosted on Amazon, and my budget is $10,000. Notice how the difference of that language there. The difference of the language is that it's much more specific and qualified. So meaning that I'm picking out certain things that I already know I want to use, like Amazon. 3 to 5 pages. I want to use Stripe for processing. Specific language. And then qualified, meaning that I'm already putting out a budget, $10,000. And this sends out signals. What I'm doing there is sending out signals. Signaling to the right people, hey, I get where you're coming from. I understand that you deal with a lot of just basically shitheads, and I'm not one of those people. So that's how I get that out, what that requires is some research as to what technologies you might want to use, but none of that stuff is secret information. There's no reason why this guy couldn't do that. It'll take a weekend. It's not that hard. It'll take a weekend to kind of go through and figure out what some of the good solutions are, and this is what most companies, small companies, use for payments. This is what they use for hosting. This is what they use for database, whatever, and then put together a more intelligent post than this, right? This guy, if you see this guy in your feed, he's not for real. Don't follow up on this. Let all the people who are desperate for work, let them get those clients, because you don't want those people even in your orbit. They never go on to bigger things. They never reach the next level. They don't do that. There's no greater opportunity at the end of the rainbow. There's no gold. There's no pot of gold at the end of that rainbow. It's just more nonsense. And I've been in this game so long now. I've seen these people sort of play out the same game for years. I've seen people who are talking about the same startup idea that they've had for years. They're still talking about it. They're still talking about this startup idea they've had for 3 years. total time waster. It works both ways too. I've seen it on the other end where, I see a lot more of this too, where people are like, I want to get into coding. I want to become a tech engineer. I want to work in Silicon Valley. They've been saying that since 2015. It's like, all right, stop talking about it. You're going to do it or you're not. Just stop talking to me about it. Like, I don't care. Like, I don't care. Like, stop talking to me about this. Like, you're not impressing me at all. Just shut up. I don't have time for it. My time is extremely maxed out. Every second of every day, if I wanted to, I would be billing for my clients, and that's it. I don't because I choose not to, but I could fill literally 24 hours of my day just billing clients and nothing else. That's how maxed out my time is. So, people who don't have that kind of demands on their schedule, these are the time wasters. So, So yeah, going back to this, I got the idea for this video based on this freelance guide that Candy sent over. Again, I highly recommend it. And it goes through a couple stories and situations like this that you should expect as a freelance engineer that I certainly was not ready for when I first started out. Freelancing is it's a very different game. It's a very different way of going about your career than working full time. You have to have a much more vigilant way of approaching things. It's actually a bit more like dating. I would imagine dating. Dating is more like this, where you have to kind of feel people out and like wonder, is this person crazy, or is this person emotionally stable, or is this person do they have good values, things like that, and it takes a little bit of sleuthing. You kind of have to do some detective work, and then over a period of time, you develop mechanisms and quick ways of identifying one versus the other. And a lot of times, these people self-identify, which is great. It saves everyone time. Reminds me of this meetup I went to back in October. Right now it's February. If you're watching this video later, it's February 2019. So back in October, I went to a tech meetup that was meant for for a showcase. Well, it doesn't really matter the topic. Anyway, it's a bunch of tech people. And one of the guys I met, immediately started telling me about, all the girls he's been with in the past year. And I was just thinking to myself, do you even know how weird you are? Do you even realize, how crazy you are to have these conversations with somebody you just met? You're sending off all sorts of red flags. I will never work with you. And any rational person, this is not appropriate conversation for someone you just met. Literally just met, at the meetup. And he's telling me about all these girls he brought home from New York City when he used to live in Brooklyn, and I was just in my head I'm thinking this is so weird. Why are there people? How do people like this figure out life? How do they navigate just challenges in life? But they're there, and it's just, those are the signals that people give off. Well, it happens in the freelance game too. And just like dating, it takes a lot of experiences to start picking up on to hone your radar and to start picking up on it. Luckily, a lot of that can be learned without experience by going through stuff like this, watching my videos, watching more of Candy's stuff too. Candy has a lot of good tips on the freelance game, a lot more than I do. I do make freelance videos, but my channel isn't like a freelance guide or a freelance channel. And so if you're looking more for actually, freelance contract web development specific content, Candy's great for that. Real Tough Candy. So check her out. I'm sure you can't type all this in. So the best way is to just do Real Tough Candy in your search bar. That's it right there. This one right here, Real Tough Candy. And then this is her channel. And check out the book. Like I said, I read through the whole thing. It's a pretty quick read, a weekend at the most. And most importantly, she outlines a lot of like actionable things you can concretely do today if you are serious about making the transition, and you're not a time waster, and you're not someone who just talks about it over and over and over again as the years go by. So don't be that person. I made a video about this about a year ago, talkers versus doers. Many talkers out there who just talk about one day they're going to do this and that, and how one day they're going to build this great website or this great app or whatever, and they just talk and talk and talk for years. While the people who do, they're not talking, they're doing. And so don't be a talker. Those guys are jokes. Those people are jokes. Be a doer. Start doing stuff. And don't be a joke. The talkers are laughed at. So don't be that guy. Be a doer. Put out content, put out projects, create stuff, create many projects, deploy projects. Don't just create repos on GitHub and then just do nothing. Deploy them, put them together, make them look nice. Hook up a payments platform. Don't just talk about it. Do it. Like Candy did here. She wrote an entire book. She did it. She finished it, and she put it out there. She probably designed all this. She wrote all the. She did all the probably the UI. Well, not UI, but the actual design of this here. I don't know if she did. I'm just guessing, but she designed this web page to sell the book. She hooked up the payments platform. She hooked up this PayPal. She did all that. She did it. She's not just talking about it over and over again about how one day she's going to write a book. No. She did it. And that's the difference. And this is why I'm happy to know her. This is why I'm glad that we are in contact with one another, because you want to find more doers in your life, not talkers. And the talkers will just drain life out of you. They suck your time out of you. They're vampires. Candy and I, we don't talk that much. We've only spoken a few times. That's because we're both busy. We're both really busy. But when we do talk, a lot of shit gets done, and we both make progress, and so that's good. So watch her channel, watch her content, and that's pretty much it. I'll try to make more videos about some of my freelance experiences, because I think a lot of my viewers find those more interesting. Well, whatever. I'll just keep on making videos. So, all right. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.